Welcome to the next episode of the Understanding Crypto series. This time we're going to take a look at what the Securities Exchange Commission is considering doing regarding non-fungible tokens. And in particular, I'm going to take a look at a petition that was sent to the SEC asking for a rulemaking to generate regulations for non-fungible tokens. So we'll read through this petition. Remember, this isn't the law. This is someone suggesting that the SEC should act in this way and create regulations. So the petition was actually sent by Arkonis Capital, which is a subsidiary of Sustainable Holdings, sent to the SEC Commission on April 12th of 2021, with the subject rulemaking regarding non-fungible tokens. Arkonis is apparently a broker-dealer registered with the SEC and the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, or FINRA. And they're in the fintech space. They're familiar with cryptocurrencies and other digital assets the SEC has regulated in the past, and they think there needs to be clarity regarding non-fungible tokens and how they are regulated, especially since the existing securities laws were written back in the 1930s, and they're a relatively crude mechanism for the regulation of these really innovative tokens. These non-fungible tokens. So the first thing they did is they talked about digital assets, talking about how there's a lot of different new types of digital assets coming online, and some of these can be regulated by the SEC. Then they dive specifically into non-fungible tokens. They talked a little bit about, the Beeple NFT is sold for $69 million, which was the third highest price paid for a piece of art by any living artist. They talked about the fact that at the time in April 2021, collectors and speculators had spent more than $200 million on NFT-based artwork, memes, and GIFs. Actually, today, 8 months later, this number is now in the several $billion-dollar range. More than $4 billion has been spent on NFTs, including NFTs for NBA Top Shot, and there's even Tom Brady's launching an NFT platform. Okay, so let's talk about whether NFTs are securities. The petition goes on to say the SEC evaluates digital assets in the same manner as traditional assets to determine whether they're securities. And they mention that the SEC has not yet provided any guidance regarding NFTs. The definition of a security is pretty broad, and that can cover some NFTs. So, for example, if you look at the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, Section 2A1 of the Securities Act defines a security as this long list of things, including the word investment contract, which seems broad enough to cover several types of NFTs. So the definition of security is expansive enough, and it doesn't explicitly include digital assets or NFTs, but it depends on how those digital assets or NFTs are used. In enforcement actions against other digital assets, the SEC has characterized those digital assets, whether they're cryptocurrency or tokens of various types, are in fact investment contracts under the definition of the SEC. And in particular, the SEC usually uses the Howey test, which dates back to a famous U.S. Supreme Court case, which was Securities Exchange Commission versus W.J. Howey. So under the Howey test, investment contract is a contract, transaction, or scheme that involves an investment of money, a common enterprise, with the expectation of profits to be derived from the efforts of the promoter of the third party. And the Howey test means that many things that don't claim to be in a security will actually be regulated as a security. And the SEC staff has said the main issue in analyzing digital assets in the Howey test is whether a purchase has a reasonable expectation of profits derived from the efforts of others, such as selling at a gain in a secondary market. If an NFT relates to an existing asset as marketed as a collectible for public assurance of authenticity in the blockchain, the petitioner argues it should not be deemed security. If it promises a return on investment from the efforts of others, the NFT could be deemed a security according to the Howey test. And price appreciation resulting solely from external market forces such as inflation or the economy impacting the supply and demand for an underlying asset wouldn't be considered a profit under the Howey test. But as NFTs proliferate, new regulatory questions will arise. For example, there's a trend towards fractionalized NFTs, and those fractionalized NFTs look very similar to a security. While NFTs are meant to be non-fungible, fractional NFTs that allow numerous purchasers to acquire partial ownership interest in the NFT increases the likelihood the NFT can be deemed a security. And so the petitioner encourages the SEC to provide guidance on whether or not fractional ownership in NFT is a security, and if so, when. The next comment that the petitioner brings up is regulation of NFT platforms. If an NFT is a security, the platform facilitating the sale and secondary trading of the NFT may have to register with the SEC as an exchange. Remember, if you're selling securities, then the only people authorized to sell those securities is actually a security exchange. So Section 3A1 of the Exchange Act defines an exchange as any organization, association, or persons, whether incorporated or unincorporated, which constitutes, maintains, provides a marketplace for bringing together purchasers and sellers of securities or otherwise perform respective securities, the functions commonly performed by a stock exchange. So here we have this rule that provides a test to assess where a trading system meets the definition of exchange, if you're providing a marketplace and so on. And that's what these NFT platforms do. They provide a marketplace. Furthermore, as the SEC noted in the Dow report, which was analyzing whether or not the Dow was a security, a system that meets the definition of exchange that must register as a national securities exchange or operate under a particular exemption from the exchange regulations. And one frequently used exemption is for alternative trading systems, which exempts from the definition of exchange something that complies with regulation ATS. So even if you're not following that regulation for the exchange, you have to follow the regulation for the ATS exemption. And so if NFTs are securities, any platform that brings together multiple buyers and sellers will likely be deemed an exchange under the existing regulations. So in recommendations, the petitioner suggests that the SEC should publish a concept release on what to do regarding regulations for non-fungible tokens, basically suggesting have a rulemaking with an opportunity for public comment, receive comments from those interested parties, and then create some guidance for parties that want to create NFTs and facilitate the sales of NFTs by allowing industry participants to participate in the rulemaking and raise questions and concerns through that rulemaking process. The SEC will be able to make a general assessment of NFTs and develop a regulatory framework that can handle the NFTs. As was with the case with the proliferation of initial coin offerings in previous years, the number of NFTs firms is growing rapidly. Like I said, in 8 months, we've gone from 200 million by the time this petition was written to over $4 billion. Like ICOs, NFTs are attracting the attention of athletes, entertainers, and media to the public. Unlike the ICO frenzy, which was met with guidance and enforcement actions, there hasn't been any guidance in the regulation of NFTs. Giving the SEC, the opportunity to engage with the public through a rulemaking process is a recommendation to the petitioner. And in particular, the SEC should propose rules to address when NFTs are securities. How does someone know that? Does someone have to go through the entire Howey test analysis every single time? How about some bright line rules for knowing when an NFT is a security and when it's not? So in conclusion, the petitioner says NFTs have tremendous potential to revolutionize a variety of industries, including sports, music, and entertainment. However, NFTs do not function as traditional securities and don't fit clearly into the existing regulatory framework. To help promote stability and innovation in the industry, the petitioner believes SEC should publish a rulemaking on the regulation of NFTs that clearly defines when an NFT is a security and what type of registration is required by firms performing trading of NFTs. Okay, so that was a brief look at a petition for the SEC to hold a rulemaking regarding the regulation of non-fungible tokens. Tune in next time when we're going to dive further into additional crypto topics as part of the Understanding Crypto series by Thomas Plunkett.